Hey,
Hey, we good?
good to go. What's going
All
on?
right.
There you go.
Yeah, the wrong orientation, huh?
What's happening, man? Are you in the office?
Yeah, I just ran in real quick, so just
I see the
breaking the
eagle.
rules. So
I see the nest. I
don't
see the
tell
eagle's
anybody.
nest behind you, man.
Yeah, exactly. How
What's
are
going
things?
on, man? So tell me how this thing's been going for you, man. What do you guys? What's your process in all this? Have you guys been in
Yeah,
daily
so
communication
we're
with your guys?
still we're still on kind of what would have been our our spring break. So still kind of meeting as a staff, remotely through the Zoom meetings and things like that. We're meeting as an offensive staff, meeting as a big staff, and trying to get some things together as far as plans. What are we going to do with the kids? How are we going to
No
develop
doubt.
those guys while we're having this downtime? So trying to look at how do we prepare for Florida? How do we still prepare for researching and studying other programs, and then how are we preparing our kids? So a lot of that's coming down to just putting together our installation package and what we did in self scout during the off season, and how do we present that remotely through a Zoom meeting or through presentations, or some of the different opportunities to get those things out. So
It's a good thing you have an easy game though to start off. Florida.
yeah, no, the swamp is spooky for sure. You're watching the Orange Bowl and trying to get yourself prepared. So no, it's exciting. Our kids are excited and looking forward to it. But no, it's definitely a challenge when you watch the Jimmys and Joes, and they are
Yeah,
doing really good stuff as well. So it's not just good players, but they're coached well. As and
no doubt.
you look at what they did to Virginia in the Orange Bowl. It's like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
pretty much what we're going to see. So.
There was a in that game. I felt like there was a significant difference in just talent on the field.
Yeah, no, it's they're a talented crew. There's no doubt. Looking at some of the things that we do and how does that fit with just the speed at which they operate and the speed of the individual athletes. I think there's going to be some things that we'd have to adjust just from making basic read games, RPO game, things like that. That may not be something that we can do. Snap in, snap out, and so it was just interesting to kind of look at it. Well, that's that guy's mess charging to read, and I don't know if there's anything we can do about that.
No doubt. What was your experience like for all the young coaches or maybe coaches that are looking to be a head coach one day? So for those of you that don't know, Coach Shoemaker was a head coach at Central Washington, and then before that you were an OC for a long time and had kind of a unique path getting to Central Washington. But talk about kind of your transition from being an assistant and then an OC, having tons of success, then going to being a head coach, having a ton of success, and now going and back to being an OC at the FCS level, and obviously leading the nation last year in total offense. What talk about just that whole transition, man, and that whole mindset for you, and some
Yeah,
things you've learned along the way.
I think the biggest thing is it was never a driver for me to be a head football coach. That was never the driving force in my career. I just happened to be in a position and be very fortunate to get the Central Washington head job when it came available, and was able to move my family a little closer. I grew up in the state of Washington, was a Washington kid growing up, and just happened to be my coaching career took me through the Midwest for a number of years, through Ohio and Kansas and Minnesota and North Dakota and all these different stops in the Midwest. But all of those stops were as an offensive coordinator, as a play caller, as a quarterback guy along the way. And then when the Central job opened, two young kids have an opportunity to get closer to grandparents. Both my wife and I are from the state of Washington, so that was the driver. It was just obviously the pay increase, and being a head coach is awesome. There's a lot of cool things about it, but it was never the end all be all for me. I was happy being an offensive coordinator, coaching quarterbacks, calling plays. Like, that's the thing that drives me probably more than anything. So, the 5 years at Central were awesome. I enjoyed it, had a good run. Had some good success there, and coached with great guys and had some really good kids to play with as well. But when this opportunity came up, and again, I wasn't in a position, or I wasn't looking, for a job or anything at the time. But, when I was contacted by Coach Best and getting to take this step forward, from a, division level and things like that, and then to learn something new. We've been running the same offensive system since '99. Terminology, signaling, the no huddle that we've used. We've evolved the RPO game. We've evolved some of the calls and things like that along the way. But there was not much different that, from a signaling standpoint, a coding standpoint, to a no huddle standpoint, to some of our base packaging in the indie package and things like that. Nothing had really changed all that drastically, from '99 until last year. So coming here was a growth mindset, being able to have an opportunity to learn something new. And then also, getting a chance to be in one of the premier programs in the FCS and learn what they're doing, from an offensive standpoint to a program standpoint and things like that. So, doing it was definitely a growth deal. It was not easy. It wasn't something that was as simple as you say, I'll come and lead the nation in offense. We also didn't win as many games as they had the year before, and you feel like you're letting some people down. But we finished 525 in yards. Our quarterback had a great run, and a lot of those things come out of the structure they already had in place.
Yeah, you guys killed it. What would be your advice? What was the hardest thing being a head coach and calling the plays? Because I know that's a level difference, D2 to D1 AA, but that's a high level D2. And so there's still a ton on your plate. What was the hardest thing that you had to face being a head guy, dealing with all the administrative, all the relationship piece of it, the discipline, accountability piece of it, and then running the offense and calling plays?
I think compartmentalizing, being able to compartmentalize what's going on from a fundraising standpoint, from a program standpoint, from an administration connection standpoint, being able to compartmentalize those in times of the day or times of the year, right? Saying, hey, I'm going to be really good at fundraising this, through these months and this time period. And I'm going to be really good at, reaching out to the alumni base in this time period. But during the season, making it clear to people that, this is my priority, is to develop the offense, call the plays, and win as many football games as possible. And drive the program from that standpoint. Now, again, the biggest thing is hiring good people, guys that you can trust to put a lot of things in their hands and be able to free myself up to, be able to answer questions to a bunch of people during the day. The other thing is at some level being a night owl, being able to, put the, that daily deal where somebody's going to come in and ask a question. The AD is going to ask a question. Somebody from, athletic training is going to ask a question. There's going to be something that you have to deal with in the middle of your watching film or game planning or putting your board together, whatever that may be, and being able to say, from 8:30 till 10:30, 11:30 at night, I'm in here doing football, and that's where a lot of that stuff got done. And I would try to, leave practice, run home, see the kids, be at home for an hour, or an hour and a half, do dinner and that while the film was getting cut, and then be back in the office and kind of grind that, that 8:30 till 11, whatever needed to be done. But I think for the most part is being able to compartmentalize those things and go, hey, the most important thing right now is winning games, and recruiting versus, hey, this is where we build the program. Build the program in the off season as much as you can.
No doubt. What's the secret sauce of? Because you hit on it earlier with hiring good people, and I would argue it's probably impossible to do it if you don't have good people. It's probably impossible to do it on your own. What's the secret sauce of hiring good people? What's your protocol? I assume it's probably very similar to the recruiting process a little bit. All those same check, boxes that you got to check. But what are some things you've noticed, man? And especially being a head guy and then having to hire an offensive staff and a full staff. What's the secret sauce of hiring a good staff?
Yeah, it's never 100%. You wish it was. If you had the answer to that, we'd probably have a lot more success and have a lot more opportunities. But I think the biggest thing is, having some connection is important. I think, having a connection to the person either through, personally coaching with them or being friends with them or developing a relationship with them. But also just, people that you trust that say, hey, this is a guy that is important and can do the things that you're going to ask them to do. But I think, the three things that I look for in hiring an assistant is, first, intellectual capacity. I mean, can they learn what I'm going to ask them to learn? And this, goes back to a lot of the young guys, right? GAs and analysts and things like that. But, is there a capacity? Is it something that they're committed to doing for the long term? Again, especially hiring young guys who are just getting in there like wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and like at the
Yep.
end of the season, they're like, this is not what I wanted to get into. Like having somebody that they don't have another option. I don't have another option. I have no other skills, right? I mean, I'm either going to succeed at coaching, or I'm going to be a
Come on,
stay-at-home
man.
dad probably. But
Come on, dude. You have plenty of skills, bro.
yes, but that's it. This is all I have, right? As far as, I don't have an out. I don't have another area to go and succeed in from my standpoint. So that's what I'm looking for: guys that have the capacity to learn, right? An intelligence level enough that they can learn what I'm going to ask them to do. They have the want to be a coach for a long term, and aren't going to be backing out at the end of 6 months or something like that. And then, like I said, have a ability, right, to have a conversation with the recruit. Being able to engage a recruit, have the personality. And again, you don't have to be off everybody's different and everybody recruits different, but what is that personality? What is their hook with recruits and boosters and people, right? I think if you have those three things, then we can get you where you need to be from a training standpoint. Now, coordinators and things like that, obviously you're looking at a little higher end as far as that hiring process. But I'm definitely looking for the guy that's probably on the right trajectory. That was probably one of the things that I've learned the most at Central was, yeah, there's a lot of guys that were coming off of a Division I job or coming off of a Big Sky job or something like that. Are those the right guys for this job? And finding guys that were on great trajectories, forward moving trajectories, was something that I valued in the hiring process. So you kind of see those guys whose careers have kind of peaked, and then where are they going in their career after that? Not to say that that's but it was something that I did value, was guys on the right trajectory from the job that they were leaving to come to Central wasn't a step back. And what does that mean to their career moving forward, and where are they at in that trajectory standpoint? So I think that's maybe something that maybe the most different maybe than what I did was, kind of learning like, yeah, I've had some guys that, came off of Division I jobs and then they were gone, fast and turned around quick and things like that. And guys that, were always like, this is not what I was hoping for. This is not as good as what it could be, right? And looking for that next opportunity, versus guys that were maybe coming out of an NAIA job or coming out of a D3 job or coming out of some of those things that come to Central and go, this is great, excited, working hard, and there's great coaches at all levels. I mean, you can find high school guys that can do the job better than what I do, but like I said, what trajectory are they on? What's their life experience coming into the job?
No doubt. I get a lot of questions from a lot of my friends in the profession. They're young coaches that are trying to kind of make their way up. And a big thing about this profession is, you kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, just the networking portion of it. And you got to correct me if I'm wrong on this story, but I think the thing that impressed me about you is you didn't really know Coach Best before you got to Eastern, right? It was kind of just the success you had at Central, and then you played them. Tell me how that went about.
Well, my situation is pretty unique. I've been very fortunate. Fingers crossed, I've never lost a job, and I've only applied for 2 jobs. I've had a bunch. I've been in a lot of places, but I've only applied for 2 jobs. I applied for the first job when I left Western Washington as a GA. Applied for that job and got a offensive coordinator position and a head baseball position as a 25-year-old kid that didn't know anything about anything. And then I applied for the Central job. Every other job in between was somebody calling me. It's the whole Frosty Westerly, PLU, great coach. Make the big time where you're at. Do what you're doing, do it well, and put yourself in a position to be successful. And hopefully people will notice. And I'm probably the worst at building those networks and pressing the buttons and plus pressing the flesh at the convention and things like that. It's just not my personality. I'm going to just continue to work and hopefully put ourselves and our program in a position to get noticed. And it's pretty it's been pretty successful for me. Coach Best, like I said, I didn't know Coach Best at all. Obviously, we played him the year before or that season, and but it was nothing that we had a relationship prior or anything like that. So it was them just reaching out, at the end of the year. I think we were probably in the middle of recruiting when they found out, that they were going to possibly have an opening, and so it was just like, hey, would you be interested? And well, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of the best places in the country to coach football, and definitely something I should consider.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's probably one of the most misunderstood things in our profession is a lot of times we think that in order to get noticed, we got to kind of be flashy at the convention and pass out as many cards as we can.
All right.
It's usually the exact opposite. It's usually, like you said, it's kind of keeping your feet where you're at and doing a really good job building trust with the people that you're working with currently, and then usually everything will fall into place. That's awesome. So talking about some football stuff, man, I've always been interested in this, and I've kind of gone back and forth coaching quarterbacks most of the time in my career. But what's your thoughts on developing a quarterback room as far as the recruiting? Because there's all different types of quarterbacks, and especially nowadays, it's not just the pro style 6'4" guy anymore. Like you can get it done with anyone. Your guy this year at Eastern could throw and run really well. Do you, in the recruiting process, recruiting the quarterback room, do you look for different types of quarterbacks, or do you stay with the same kind of mold that fits your style of offense?
Well, I know at Central, and kind of what I left you there when I left and you came in at Central Washington, the idea was to make sure that we had somebody that was athletic enough. That's the first thing, right, is athletic enough to beat somebody in the front seven one-on-one. Right. So whoever we play defensively, defensive ends, defensive tackles, linebacker level, can this kid beat one of those guys one-on-one with a protection mistake, a free rusher, a read situation, right? Reading a C-gap defender, whatever it may be. Can he win a one-on-one battle with that guy? Now, that doesn't mean you got to be 4-5. That doesn't mean you have to beat them with speed. It doesn't mean that you can win that battle a lot of different ways. And guys like a Christian Moore is maybe going to win that battle more physically than anything. And watching him play basketball and move around the hoop boards, I was like, okay, that guy has enough athleticism to win some of those. He may not run away from the guy. He may not, not get his flag pulled, but he will still beat the first guy one-on-one for the most part, right? And then you look at, guys I've had in the past that are, straight burners. And Eric Berrier right now, our quarterback here, he is that 4-5 type of guy and 200 pounds and can accelerate past everybody. But it's just a different way of winning, right? So I think that's always going to play for me. We're always going to have a component of a read run game where the quarterback is involved with getting the number back, right? But that can happen different ways. Like we can be a power read team versus a zone read team where the quarterback now is a downhill physical runner in the A gaps, or hey, we got an athlete that can run and get and win them to the edge. Now we're more of a zone read team, and the tailback's going to take the inside gaps, and the quarterback's going to be the edge player. And there's also this idea of, a game breaker in that, pull read game, or the guy that's consistently going to be a 7+ nuisance runner. That guy that's going to always make the right decision and always going to get you 7 yards. That's freaking huge. And that's still a quality add to the run game. And it doesn't have to always be exactly, a game breaker on every pull. It's going to be staying efficient, keeping the sticks rolling, on your down and distance efficiencies and making sure you're sound. And we sound, make sure you have enough flexibility in your system. If that guy isn't great at those things, then you got to be really good at quick game. Anywhere you're going to put that read run game in play, you better be as efficient in your quick game as you would be in your zone read run game. Because again, if you're going to limit yourself in the number game with the quarterback not being part of the run game, then you're going to have to deal with a way for that guy to be a plus player, and I think the quick game is the next answer. So
Right.
now that's a long answer to get
No.
around, but that's how we evaluate, and then from a personality standpoint, obviously leadership, a guy that can make quick decisions. We're RPOing things, we're reading things. He's making 4 or 5 post-snap decisions in the most part for us, and a guy that can make those decisions quickly, distribute the ball accurately and confidently. Those are the things that are most important to me. Not arm strength, not size, not 4'4", 4'5". All those things are pluses. Don't get me wrong. I'm looking for the 6'3" guy that's a
Yep.
4'5" and can zing the ball around. 100% of the time, I'm going to take that guy. But personality-wise, it's got to fit, leadership-wise, and I got to trust that guy's going to make great decisions because we're putting the keys of the kingdom in his hands every snap with what we do offensively anyway.
No doubt. No, you mentioned earlier that I ran into this last year. It was the first time in my career I've ran into this. We became kind of a big play offense, and I got so big play oriented that we kind of forgot that those little 5-yard gains, 7-yard gains, like you said, those are enormous in the course of a
Right.
game. And so we kind of had to scale back a little bit and say, guys, we love the big plays for touchdowns, but don't forget that I don't want to bypass a 5-yard gain and take some deep shot that's double covered.
Right.
Let's make sure we're staying ahead of the chains, like you said. I think sometimes we have to remember that hey, we all want to score touchdowns, we want to score 45 points a game, but man, if you get into 2nd and 5, that's way better. That's a night and day difference from 2nd and 11 getting us into, or 2nd and 10 getting behind the chains. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, no question. Down distance efficiency drives us. It drives me, especially calling plays as well. That's a huge important piece.
No doubt. Talk to me about this, man. This is something that I've just thought about so much, man. The RPO game, which is awesome. I love it, versus the play action game. And I think it's crazy. I think the kind of the infatuation with coaches nowadays is getting really cute with the RPOs. They can be really, really good. But I think sometimes if you get too cute with them and if they become too much of what you do, you kind of almost eliminate the true play action shots
Right.
and even just play action game. Talk to me about your mindset with RPOs and why you use RPOs versus true play actions.
Well, I think first and foremost is understanding why you have RPOs in place, right? I mean, they're to protect the run, right? I have something in my 10 personnel formation. I have something in my 11 personnel formation that maybe I can't defend, right? I can't stop that safety from rolling down and being the extra hitter on the run game. If I run this certain formation versus this certain defense, I can get outnumbered, right? So that's the main thing is I'm trying to protect the number player, the extra player, the support player, the fast flow player, whoever that guy is. I'm trying to make sure that guy is not an extra hitter in this play, right? So again, for us, separating that idea of I'm protecting a run, right, versus I'm running RPOs to throw the ball down the field, I think is two different things. So, for us, protecting with screens, protecting it with the quarterback pull game, protecting it with third level RPOs and things like that. But it's all about protecting the one guy that we can't, whoever we choose that we're not going to block on this play, right? That's who we're protecting, and that's what we're protecting the run play with. Play action wise, again, now I still think, I want to be a run play action guy. I mean, that's who I am at heart. That's what we were at Central forever, as run and play action. We had RPOs, but we weren't downfield RPOing very much. We were play action and pop plays to the tight end, constraint type of play action plays to protect those runs as well. So again, I think it's a balancing act, because again, if you have too much stuff on your board, you're going to lose out on maybe some of those play actions because you are grinding out your RPOs all the time. So I think there is something to be said about it. I think it's something you continue to to balance when you're game planning, right? And I think you look at us probably this year, we were probably not enough play action, like true hard sink it in heavy play action. We were probably more quick drop back and RPOs on the year. And then, like I said, we probably were the opposite. We were probably grinding, looking for big plays, and we weren't really, we were grinding out all the efficiencies as best we could, and we still ended up with a decent year and yardage wise and all that stuff. But, it took us a little while to get big play, feel coming out of it wasn't coming out of play actions, right? Those big plays were coming off of RPOs or coming off of screens or coming off of straight drop back that hit, and our athletes, made plays instead of maybe schematically the double post breaking open and getting us a one-on-one shot, So I think there is, with the way defenses are playing now, there is a real chance that you're going to be able to develop a one-on-one matchup whenever you want.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't take 4 guys out or 5 guys out in a route to get a receiver one-on-one with a safety or a receiver one-on-one with a corner. Match cover, deliver, match carry, deliver 3, match cover, quarters, like whatever it is still probably at some level, if you do the right things formationally or the right things with the tight end or the right things with the action, you're going to develop a one-on-one where you want it.
No doubt.
You can be in 7, you can be in 8-man protections. And where we used to be in zone coverages, you had to get 4 guys vertical to get give yourself that one-on-one opportunity all the time because, it was all 4 verticals and 6-man pros, right? I think nowadays, the way people are coming down RPOs, you can protect with 7 and get your one-on-one shot. So why not have another hat in the backfield and protecting your quarterback and now maybe double move instead of just streak that guy.
No doubt.
Put another move on it and have a little bit more time. So that's where, I've evolved from, back in the day being a 4 vertical, needing 4 guys out of the 6-man pro and hanging on to your tail when the blitz comes, right? Not having built-in hops and not having to deal with all those things where now it's like, all right, let's use a little bit more 7-man and double move that guy or put together a, some type of double post, high cross, whatever play action concept where I don't need 4 and 5 guys out all the time to take my shot down the field.
Yeah, no, I love it. I totally agree with that as well, man. Talk to me about your in-game, kind of the balance between sticking with your call sheet, and then obviously there's times in every game where you got to use your instinct and use your gut, use your natural kind of study that you had throughout the week of what they're going to be in at certain points. I think sometimes I've done this in my career where you get a little bit paralyzed to your call sheet. And then I've also been at a point where you are kind of winging it too much during the course of a game. Talk about that balance of kind of sticking with that call sheet and going with your gut and kind of calling it off the hip based off instinct.
Yeah, I think, choice downs, I think there's a real kind of freewheeling field going. Like you can kind of call whatever. You can, click and, and just kind of point at the call sheet and call first and second down calls. What I've found over the years is what matters is your third down calls, your red zone calls, your close in goal line and things like that. That's where, you make your money as a play caller. And, what I've found is being able to hopefully do enough work during the week that you take the emotion and that heavy feel thing out of those calls for the most part. Not to say that, hey, I got a 2-point play and I'm going to go on feel of what we're getting today and I'm going to have an answer here that I can develop, right? I think those things are definitely important, but I probably lean the other way where, I'm going to try to take the emotion out of those situational calls as much as I can. Have a plan for the third down. It's 3rd and less than 1. The first time that comes up, what's that plan?
Yeah.
Well, the first time it's 3rd and +7. What's the plan? What have we practiced? What have we game planned? What have we thought about and really kind of put this plan together this way and take the emotion out of that moment, because a lot of times the calls that matter are emotional situations, emotional moments. So don't live on just your feel, right? And be able to say, hey, this is what we took, 4 days to make a decision on. Have access to those calls, and then, like I said, there's going to be times where you override it with feel. We were in UW on the goal line, and we ran a play that we had never run, even practiced, with a motion and a speed option in the boundary out of an unbalanced set, walked in for a touchdown at UW. We only had a couple of touchdowns in that game, but that was one of them that was completely off the cuff, and just, hey, let's do this, let's make this adjustment and go. And that's great. But I would say, hopefully the play we had, schemed up was during the week might have been a better one at that point. But you're going to have those situations and you got to live with it, and I think for me this year, probably comfortability of the system, I probably lean more on the call sheet
Yep.
than maybe I have in my past. But hopefully that will balance out a little bit as we move forward.
Well, you make a good point. The situational downs. I think if you mentioned it, those are the ones that if you rep over and over and over throughout the week, and you get really good at those situational third and medium calls, I almost think it gives your players, it gives them way more confidence to know that, all right, if we get into a third and medium situation, I know that coach is going to go to this or this,
Yep.
And so I think it almost creates some anxiety if they have no idea what you're going to go to at certain
Right.
critical points of the game. And then those are the plays, like you said, man, those are the plays that you rep over and over versus every single look throughout the week. And you can run them in your sleep versus every look. And so I think it's a really critical component that gets, I think, sometimes overlooked, man. I think that's a necessary component.
Yeah. No, I mean, what are your thoughts on that as far as like, from a play calling standpoint, how's your
I'm,
feel versus, game plan?
I'm the same way. So every year I'm a coordinator. I've been a coordinator. It's what you just said has just cemented my belief in that. I think the choice downs, first and second down, those are easy. I think you can call it off the cuff a little bit more, but you and I know that you win and lose games based off situational football. And so if you lose a game, it's probably because you're really bad on third down conversions or you're really bad at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. It's something to do with one of those situational critical components of the game. And so I'm 100% of the belief that you got to have a very limited kind of game plan as far as what we're doing on third medium, guys. Here it is. It's this and this, and we're going to practice the heck out of it throughout the week. And I've seen every year as you stick to that kind of model and that mindset. I think the biggest piece of it is giving your guys confidence to knowing what the heck you're going to call. Because if they don't know what you're going to call, I think it creates some anxiety on the sideline and some kind of lack of confidence in your ability to get them in the right situations.
No doubt.
So yeah, man, we're eye to eye on that. A couple more, man. What is the hardest thing that people are doing to offenses these days? Defenses, and I know it's kind of the cat and mouse game. There, it always evolves, and one side offense usually catches up to the defense, and the defense will catch up. Number one, like, what do you think the defense has kind of caught up to us a little bit? Like, what component have they caught up to us a little bit? And then
Well, oh, you're
what's the
good.
hardest thing they're doing now?
Well, I think the biggest thing is having the hybrid front, right? You talk about the four eyes or the mini bear or however
Oh
you
yeah.
compartmentalize that. The having your inside three covered, your inside three gaps covered, and those ghost ends, right? You're not sure, can I read that guy if he's off the line? Am I reading him as a C
Oh yeah.
gap player? Are we arcing the backside? Like, what's our answer to some of those looks? I think that's where, they've taken kind of that zone read piece and made it a little bit harder. The crush fronts to the bear and the 0 4 eye type of looks. So and then, like I said, taking away and forcing those man-to-man situations, you're not getting zone anymore. Right? There's no zone defense. There's no cover two. There's no cover three. It's cover three, which I'm going to match the routes after a certain period of time. Quarters checks that are going to turn into press quarters and manned up. They're going to force that RPO operation to be a little bit more covered down, or at least pre-snap look like it's covered down, right? So the bear cover one to cover three, however they do it, are they disguising some of those things? But you're not getting cover two and cover three on first down and second down. You're getting some version of a route matching, screen matching coverage on the perimeter. So again, now, okay, what's my man answer? If I want an RPO, I got to have a man answer. I'm not just winning on winning on the open space, right? I'm not winning on just open air RPOs. I
Yeah.
have to win in a man-to-man situation. So I think that's the biggest kind of move forward from, being a screen RPO team with the zone read bubble adjust. Well, if we're in bear cover one, Nah, I mean, what do we might as well just run read and take the RPO off, or
Right.
put the guys in other formations and move them completely out of the way, or whatever those things are. So again, I think that's probably where those just getting everything covered down pre-snap, right? Taking that away, and then so now they're when they do play zone, they're disguising it from man and down into blitzing and edge pressuring and playing zone. And then, like I said, making it just hard. Like, who are we reading? Who is my edge player in the run game for the quarterback to deal with? So, having to give them some interesting deals where we're reading the B gap player, or arcing a tackle, or reading the second level defender, the Mike backer, the Will backer instead of the D line. But forcing those guys onto the formation a little bit more, and I think what we're able to do and have been able to do over the years is add tight ends and add surfaces, to make that more difficult on defenses. And that's been, kind of where that 11 personnel, 12 personnel adding surface to those 3-down teams who are trying to, mess with your inside B gap. All right, we're just going to read the D gap, then,
Yeah.
tag the tight end on the backside and give us angles back again, but if you don't have that ability, I think there's some things that become very difficult with, those 4 eyes just hunkered down and, banging the hell out of your tackle.
No doubt. Yeah, I think like you said, the days of defenses giving us space and just playing off free access zone and everything, I think those days are kind of over right now. And so if you do get that, you should be licking your chops because there's just so much space to work with in both the run game and the RPO game. But everything's hunkered down, man. So it forces you to operate a little quicker and then win those one-on-one matchups like you were saying. So here's my last question for you, man. This is kind of an operational, from an operational standpoint. Tell me about your experience calling plays from the box or on the field, and what you like better, and kind of the pros and cons to both, and what you found that has helped you with both situations.
I think the box is obviously the easier way to go as far as being able to spread your call sheet out, be able to take notes, be able to kind of, see the whole field, whatever, whoever you have with your box with you, what are we looking at? What's he looking at front? I'm looking at back. Who's looking at shades? Who's looking at support players? Making those decisions, I think, are a lot easier from the box from that standpoint. But I think the thing that I got, and the only time I ever ever was on the sideline essentially in my career was Central. Every other job I've been in the box, for my whole career. So, but what I liked about that was pulse of the game, pulse of the team, the heat on the sideline, feeling the quarterback, being able to see the quarterback's eyes, being able to touch a tailback or a receiver or a tackle and put a little bit more emphasis maybe on something, an adjustment or something like that. But so the emotion is back in it, right? You can take the temperature of the team, you can be there and really kind of feed off of that. But I also, I do think that taking the emotion out of it makes you a better play caller in the long run and being able to see things from the top. So I think it's better, but the positive, I think, or the thing that I think we lost, being up top is just like what does he look like? Well, what's his eyes telling you? Like, what does everybody, think? What does it feel like down there? What's the wind like? What's the rain? How is it affecting us? Those are things that are hard sometimes to gauge from the box. And needing to have somebody down that can help you, or if you're down, having somebody up that you really trust to feed you the information that you need. I think that's another thing. It was always a challenge is to find that input, from the box when you're down on the field.
Absolutely.
And when is that feedback coming to you? When is it coming to you? Because you're in the middle of calling plays and things like that. The thing I found is I turned my sideline calling at Central into a box call. I would just walk away. I'd be away from everybody, the head kind of down in the call sheet, and try to peek from the back of the structure, like it would be a practice. Try to get behind the quarterback or whatever that is, or see the defense from a different angle. But I would remove myself from the signalers, remove myself from the congestion of that madness on the sideline while I was calling plays, and then jump back in after the drive was over.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a really hard thing to do. If, like you said, if you're going to be on the sideline calling plays, I think it's absolutely imperative for you to literally have multiple meetings with the box guys
Right.
and tell them, all right, here's the criteria. Here's exactly what you're looking at. Here's exactly when I need the information. Because I think if you don't think that's a big deal and you don't do it, you're going to get a hodgepodge of information at random times, and I don't think it's efficient at all.
Yeah. And like I said, this is one thing that I can do better, and I don't have the answer for. What does that box sheet look like? Right? Like, well, I've been asking, I've been hunting, and I
Yeah,
haven't got a great answer. I sat with Jim Cheney at the convention for like 2 hours and talked about, and he's been millions of places and coach great football, and same thing. What's your box sheet look like? What are you getting? What are you giving those guys? What's your guidance to that? And yes, it's there was no simple answer, right?
yeah,
So I think the best year that we've ever did anything with a box piece was I had a distinct box sheet every week for that guy. So every defense is different. Every support player technique was always kind of different. What are we peaking? What are we looking at? What's the most important? When we're just having something separate each week, like, hey, I need to know where this safety is on every play. I need to know if they're 3 techniques to the field or the boundary, right? I need that. That's all you're focused on. If you can give me that piece of information, then I can glean the rest of what I need from what I'm seeing play out, right? And I think that's you can't see all 11. You're not going to be, you can't trust, somebody to see all 11 and write it all down and have every look and every blitz and every twist and every, what time was the DN first or the blitzer first, or who was first or second in the B gap or C gap. That stuff is not real. You know what I mean? That
yeah,
doesn't happen unless you maybe at the bigger schools and you have a million eyes and things like that. But for me, was developing a box plan every week with that guy and saying, hey, this week it's about when do we get in field pressure, or hey, this week it's about where the boundary safety is pre-snap. This week it's about this, and being able to give that guy something to focus in on in a simple chart that you can get information out of. Probably was the best thing that and again, like I said, it's not something that I haven't done it here. I didn't do it at Central, but I think our St. Cloud, one of those years at St. Cloud, was probably our best box kind of operation. That way was just having, hey, you're looking at this, I'm looking at the field, I'm looking at the big structure, you're looking at this one thing, and keeping track of it for the game.
yeah. And then, like you said, I think whether we like it or not, coordinators on both sides, we can disguise as much as possible, but we're tendency driven. We have our natural tendencies of what we want to call. And so I think, like you said, if they can give you little tidbits of information that give you a tip and say, hey, this 3 tech is lined up this way, this safety's lined up this way, it automatically sparks that film study that you had throughout the week. And it
Yep.
says, all right, when the boundary safety's here, this coordinator likes to do this and that. And I think that's way better than them just randomly saying, hey, we need to run the triple reverse
Right.
pass on this play. So
Yes,
I think
no doubt.
it's
Yeah, no,
it's
I
it's a
think
huge deal.
that was probably something that is something we need to probably instill here as well, is just kind of building that plan. Because again, this year we just kind of lived off of what they've done in the past, and it was one guy writing everything, the play, the formation, trying to draw the whole deal and give everything to everybody. I'm like, Jesus, we're not getting anything. Not
Yeah.
that he was doing a bad job, it just was too much information that didn't really help us. But yeah, if I know that boundary roll safety is telling me one high, to this structure, and he can just look at the boundary safety and get that 2 yards inside, 2 yards outside the hash pre-snap kind of alignment. Like, okay, that is a positive. If I have a peek or am I looking to the sideline, yeah, he's 2 yards outside the hash. Oh, we knew from game plan that means there's a really good chance he's rolling down into one high. Oh, he's right on the hash or just inside the hash at 11 yards. Oh, they're going to stay in their quarters check here, right? Like, I mean, those things are, important. Or like I said, it might be a front deal. Hey, yeah, we got 4-eye versus a 3, right? 4 eyes versus 3s tell us something very important for the structure of this defense. And if you can boil it down, which is not always, you can't always boil it down to something that simple, but it may be the only thing that guy needs to be able to tell you. while you're looking at the rest of the structure.
Right. No, I love it, man. Love it. Awesome information, brother. Really good talking to you, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. How's Utah?
Awesome. Beautiful place.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Besides just sitting in our house all day, quarantine.
Right, right. Well, at least it's not snowing. We've had snow the last couple of days,
Have
so
you had snow up there?
yeah, it's been. We had a tornado, we had an earthquake,
How
and we
about
had
that?
snow. Yeah, all in
And
one
then
day.
earthquakes in Idaho. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
we
sign of the
felt it.
times.
Yeah, it rocked us back and forth at our house
Is that
for
right?
sure. Yeah, so
Well, we got the sunshine every day, man. It's beautiful. It's just it's a weird feeling, man. Great to be with the family. I love it, but
yeah,
it's a weird feeling. Hopefully we come out of it quick. So
yeah. May 31st. Hopefully, we actually get something going.
I
I
know,
mean, with that
I
new
know,
dead period going out to 31st,
crazy.
it's a little spooky. So
Do you think that we need? What's the time limit? We need for our guys to start a season on time? I know that's probably out of the picture, but do
yeah,
you think
so
a couple months or what?
I think the word on the street is there's 3 start dates out there that they're planning on around, right? Having a start date on July 1st, right? If we can go back to work and do that, then you'd have this many OTAs and you go into your season. You go August 1st and then September 1st, and if we go past September 1st, I don't think there's going to be a season.
Oof.
That would be my guess. Those are going to be the 3 dates that they look at. Can we safely go back to work on those 3 dates? And here's what the plan would be if we do. And limited to regular season, conference games, and kill all the non-conference. Like all those things are possible, right? But those would be the three things kind of out there, I think, as far as July, to
And
August.
that would be everyone getting back to work.
Being able, yes, that their kids could be on campus. You could go to the office, and everybody feels safe and comfortable with that. But if those 3 dates none of those 3 dates roll, then I think there's a really good chance that we're looking at pushing to the next season, and
No doubt.
just kind of holding up and recruiting for a while.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sorry to be a downer to the end of the deal.
No, hey, it's you're speaking truth, man.
Right.
Hopefully, we can all see the positives out of it and get through this thing. It's been an unprecedented, weird thing for all of us to deal with, man. So
yeah, no
crazy.
doubt. We're living through a plague with Netflix.
No question. I think I've worn out my Netflix, man. I think I've watched about every show there is.
Yeah,
so.
Tiger King is a little much, but it was good.
Beautiful show. Beautiful show. I went through every string of emotions you could possibly go through in that show.
Oh, for sure.
You're the man, bud. Dude. Appreciate it, brother.
No problem. Let me know if you need anything else.
Thanks,
Klein, get off of here. Get out of here. Go do some work.
All right, see you, bro. See you, man.